The power of silence. Yes, the power of silence. So much happens when you're silent. So much happens when you turn everything off. When you turn off the outside noise of the world, when you turn off the outside noise of propaganda, you turn off the outside noise of the people around you, the influences and all these things. When you turn all these things off, the power of that silence now will start speaking to you. You know, to kick it off real quick, a lot of people want to find their purpose. A lot of people want to find out why they're here in life and all these things. The reason why you can't find it is because there's so much noise around. There's so many things pulling you this way, pulling you left, pulling you right, that you're never in your own thought. You're never in your own consciousness. You're never in your God consciousness to really awaken and understand why you're here, to really understand how to move. You have to understand that there's so much noise out here, and all this noise out here is on purpose. It's to drown out that inner thought, drown out that inner dialogue that you have, that God consciousness that you have. Is all this noise out here and rambunctiousness and all this deviltry and all this unrighteousness that's out here. The reason why it's so loud and in our face is because it's to silence that inner consciousness that we have. So we have to take time and silence all these things. And once you start silencing these things, you begin to start centering yourself and start finding out who you are, how you need to think, how you should think, how you want to think, not how the noise has taught you to think. Let's just leave it at that. The noise has taught you to think. But how are you needing to think for God needing you to move? These are very pivotal questions. These are very pivotal things that we have to start doing. Silencing the things around us. Sometimes you may have to turn off your phone and go for a walk. And not go for, and what I'm about to say is, silence can even be things that you see. It's not just things that you're hearing, it's things that you see. The neighborhoods that you're in. Sometimes you have to silence yourself or stop yourself from continuing being in the same neighborhoods. Silence the negative thought patterns. But let me go back to what I was saying about going for a walk. Sometimes you have to turn off your phone and go for a walk. Go for a walk in a new environment. So now your eyes are being silenced from the things that you used to see. Your ears are being silenced from the noise that you used to hear. The no birds in the neighborhoods that you used to be in versus the birds now that you're hearing in these new neighborhoods. The houses that you used to see in the old neighborhoods versus the new houses that you get to see. This all changing your perspective. The air that you used to smell in your old neighborhoods, it smells different in the new neighborhoods when you're out here going for your walk in this new environment when you turned on your phone. You're starting to silence all these things that you've been programmed to believe is you. And when you silence all these things, now you're coming up with your own programming. You know, the quickest way to get to God is to silence everything. The quickest way to get to God is to silence everything through meditation. This is going to be rough, what I'm about to say, but it's you can look at it, look for it yourself on the internet or YouTube, wherever. I believe it was Moses. When Moses spoke to God, or God appeared to Moses, Moses was in meditation. You find God through the darkness when you meditate. That means you have to silence everything in order to reach God. They told us that God is the light. Light is positive, but God is not. You have to go through the darkness to get to God. The darkness that they were talking about is when you meditate. You see? You see why so much noise out here? Because the more noise, the more loudness it is, the more everything is out here, it takes you further away from God. Again, if God is truly in the deep meditation, when you deeply meditate, when you deeply silence yourself, when you deeply shut everything down, and that's when God appears, why do you think there's so much noise out here? This is the importance. This is the importance of silencing a lot of things around you. Now, everything doesn't have to always be silenced, because I still listen to rap music, or I still like rambunctious things here and there. I'm enjoying this human experience as I'm supposed to as a spiritual being. But I'm living in the world and not of the world. Meaning when it's time to cut these things off, I can easily cut them off because I know what I'm going to gain is going to be far much greater than what I'm losing by turning these things off. I know my alignment with the Most High is much more greater than these things that's out here that I may indulge in from time to time. So I'm not saying that everything is inherently bad or good or anything like that sort, because you can get messages, download signs, and energy changes and energy vibration raises and all these type of things from anything. But what I'm saying is, if you're not already spiritually aligned, if you're not already at the point where you can easily, or if you're not at the point where you can separate yourself from the worldly things and know that they are worldly things and you're not of it, you're just here, then I almost lost my train of thought. Somebody kept looking at me. If you are able to distinguish the worldly things then you have a much easier time being able to enjoy the worldly things because you're living in the world, not of the world. But if you have not had that spiritual discernment or spiritual practice, or if you haven't trained and exercised that enough, then it's going to be harder for you to accept or to know what the difference is and to accept the quote-unquote righteousness of what actual life is and actual real thoughts are, the positivity that comes behind it. The power of silence. You can achieve the power of silence by shutting everything down, meditating, going to a place that you've never been before, eating foods that you've never eaten before, experiencing new things. Like I said, it's not always just physical, verbal silence. It's not always that. Sometimes you have to silence the old thought patterns, the old movements, everything that you used to do before. Sometimes you have to stop those things. Stop, silence, same thing. Because like I said, there's so much noise out here. And a lot of times we've already been programmed by the age of 7? So how do you change? How do you grow? There's no possible way for you to change or grow unless you've come to the realization. There's no way for you to change or grow unless you've come to the realization that you must silence the old things that no longer benefit you. You must. You must silence the things that don't benefit you anymore if you want to change and grow. The power of silence. Have you ever been, and this is, let me finish this. Silence speaks so loud, even though it's so quiet, because so much goes on in that silence that you can't see. Silence is really when change happens. You just can't see it or feel it, but silence is when that nothingness of silence that we perceive, that nothingness of silence that we perceive, that nothingness right there is where a lot of change occurs. Have you ever been in a relationship with somebody you broke up? Or you ever been in a relationship with somebody? Let me go back to the first example. You ever been in a relationship with somebody and they give you the silent treatment? That mild, toxic behavior, the silent treatment instead of telling you what's really wrong? I call it mild because people do it just, they don't want to express why they're mad. They want you to feel some type of way. They want you to feel that burn, That's why I call it mildly toxic. It's not that toxic, but it's mildly toxic. It is if you're not comfortable expressing yourself and things like that. So you want somebody to feel that burn, I get it, But when it becomes a habit, or you're not able to express yourself or articulate why you're mad to move this situation forward after you're done mildly being toxic, then yeah, it's an issue. But I digress. Have you ever been in a relationship with somebody and they give you that silent treatment? That silent treatment speaks so loud. So much is going on in that silent treatment. You feel the energy of that silent treatment. Just because your partner's silent, you feel that energy, right? Okay. There's a lot that goes on in silence that you can't see, that you can't hear, that you can't feel. But you have to understand a lot is going on in silence. They tricked us that nothing goes on in silence. It's just nothing. But there's always something. Nothing is nothing in this universe. Nothing is nothing. Again, nothing is nothing. Nothing is something. It's not, nothing is just not nothing. No, nothing is something out here. Even the smallest of nothing is something. The smallest of silence, something can occur in the smallest of silence. Didn't they say that scientifically this world was made off one big boom? So before that boom, it was silence. What was going on before that? It just didn't go boom. In that silence, something was conjuring up in that silence. You ever seen somebody cry and before they cry, you see them gasping for air? In that silence, that air is coming up. It's emotions coming up. It's something in that silence. It's power in that silence. Again, have you ever been in a relationship with somebody and you broke up with them and now you give them the side, you don't talk to them anymore? You feel that silence. You feel that energy. You feel it. You feel it. You feel that disconnect. Again, there's major power in silence. So much goes on in silence that we haven't been able to fully utilize. It's just like darkness or nighttime. We've been taught that dark time is bad, or we've been taught that nothing happens in the dark time and we should just be sleeping in dark time and that's it. Little do you know, a lot and so much takes place in darkness. A lot of times it's easier to manifest in darkness than it is bright outside. Go figure. In darkness, you're able to see the stars. How can you see the stars when the light is outside? You see? So, I'm going off on a little tangent. But that's just to say that the things that they told us to focus on are not necessarily always the things that we should focus on. Sometimes the things that they haven't told us to focus on are also things that we need to focus on because there's power in those things. Like I said, it's power in silence, it's power in darkness. I believe darkness is related to silence. Because in nighttime when it's dark, it's a lot of silence going on. It's a lot of energy going on, but it's dark, it's silent. But you wouldn't know or you wouldn't expect or you wouldn't experience it because you haven't been taught to experience those things. You haven't been taught to go deep in those realms and really understand and really explore. How many times have you eaten food or had your dinner or lunch or whatever just in pure silence? You haven't. You know? How many times have you just found yourself running to turn on the TV so it can just be noise, so you can just hear something? I'm guilty of it too. But I'm conscious, but I'm guilty of it too. I've been guilty of it before. And when I caught myself, I'm like, I don't even want to listen to this. I'm just cutting something on just to hear some noise. I cut it off. Immediately. When I first think that, I cut it off. Why do I cut it off? I cut it off for a lot of reasons. I cut it off because now I feel like I might be trying to drown my thoughts subconsciously. It might be something that I need to think about or something that happened that I need to reflect over or something like that. And subconsciously, I've turned on some noise to drown that out. That's why a lot of people like noise. It's to drown out their true thoughts, drown out things that they know they need to think about, drown out God. That's big, ain't it? Yes. A lot of people use noise to drown out God. And how do people drown out God? I'm about to tell you. With noise, I'm about to tell you. A lot of people drown out God with noise by intoxication. You know, drinking alcohol. You know, getting high. I'm not talking about just like regular weed or shrooms. I'm talking about like stone cold high. I'm talking about high out your brain to where you can't even formulate certain thoughts or you can't formulate certain ideas or You just doing stupid shit. Excuse my language. You know? Once you got into that point, you're trying to drown out God. You're trying to drown out hurt. But sometimes we have to live in that silence, meaning put those drinks away, put those drugs away, turn that music off, turn that TV off, turn those bad friends off, and really sit and think, really sit and listen to your thoughts, really sit in that silence and listen to God, listen to nature, listen to the universe, and what is it trying to tell you? And the reason why a lot of people continue to just turn this noise up so much is because they've denied and not listened to God for so long and listened to the universe for so long. They've had their music up for so long that now that noise, when it gets cut on, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts bad. It hurts worse than those hangovers. It hurts worse than almost overdosing. It hurts worse than the negative music that. It hurts worse than the turns that your life takes when you accept negative music as being your focal point of your life. You know, you move and groove in accordance to what, you know, this negative music is telling you. You know, Hot Girl Summer. You know, that's all you listen to is Hot Girl Summer or City Boy Summer. So you start aligning your life with that. And now you're living in that loudness instead of the silence in that and really living in spiritually who you are. That's what happened. That now everybody's living their life in such a way now that when they silence these things, it hurts so much. It hurts. It's like, imagine you haven't had medicine for so long, and now when you finally get that medicine, you know, it hurts your stomach. Same thing. Or you've been without water for so long, now you get some water. You don't need, you know, you've been drinking juice your whole life, and now you sick, so now you need some water. And that water just don't agree with you no more. Water may be a bad example, but I hope you get the gist of what I'm saying. Is that when you finally get that dose of something good, you damn near reject it. Learn how to silence things around you. Learn how to live in silence a lot of times. Once you can live in silence, then the noise won't be so heavy. Then the noise will just be entertainment. The noise will just be something temporary. The noise will just be you enjoying the earth realm for what it is. And that'll be it. And once it's done, it's done. And you continue about your mission to continue about your journey. Part of it I've lived. That's why I'm able to speak on it. And the parts that I haven't lived, I've witnessed people live, and that's why I'm able to speak on it. I've noticed people who live in so much loudness, you know, that they can't sit with their thoughts. And the loudness is just to drown out their demons, quote unquote. It's to drown out the thoughts that they know they need to think. You know, the people they screwed over, the things that they haven't done, and all these things, what they don't want to think about. That's why they have this noise around them. The people who have the most noise need the most silence. Again, the people who have the most noise, so the people where you see are the most flashy, the people who you see are always into something, the people who you see are just never quiet, never meditating, never at peace, never just being. The people who you always see doing something, listening to something, acting some type of way, accepting some kind of social construct or all these things. When you see these people, these are the people who really need silence the most. Ask these people, when was the last time you meditated? When was the last, or when you were just quiet, had quietness around you? Ask them. Ask them when was the last time that they were at peace. And you will see, these people are never at peace. These people are never quiet. They can't be quiet. Actually, when was the last time they were by themselves? That's a major one that I haven't spoken on, which is silence is also being by yourself. You collect the noise from everybody around you. So imagine you have 15 people around you, or 3 people around you, 3 best friends around you, and they all think differently. They all think in ways that you don't want to think, or you don't care to think. So now what happens? You can't think for yourself because there's so much noise from your 3 friends pulling you this way, pulling you this way, pulling you this way. We should do this. We should do this. We should do this. All benefiting them and none benefiting. All benefiting them and none benefiting you. You see, again, all benefiting them and none benefiting you. Sometimes you have to silence your friends. Sometimes you have to get away from your people. Sometimes you have to, in order to reclaim your mind. Claim your mind back. Claim your energy back. Only way you can do this is through silence. Again, not just verbal silence, physical silence, no. Separation. Silence is separation from noise, separating from more noise. There's noise, then there's silence. And that silence is what you live in until there's more, what? Noise. Just like you have friends, you separate, and then you join back with new friends or the same friends. So there's noise. You separate yourself from noise, and now you can align yourself with positive noise, I would say. Not just necessarily negative noise. All noise may not necessarily be negative in a sense, or in the context that I'm speaking of right now, but align yourself with something that's going to move you forward, I should say, than noise. Because I believe this whole time I've been speaking of noise as something negative. So we will continue that and say, when you can remove yourself from noise, that separation process is silence until you align yourself with something positive. So it's the same way. You must separate yourself from friends, family members, thoughts, ideologies, religions, all these things. Separate yourself even from religion. Separate yourself. If you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a Buddhist, Hindu, whatever the case may be, you're a spiritualist, you're a Rasta, whatever the case may be, separate yourself. Go in silence. Meditate. And really ask yourself certain questions. Really ask yourself these hard questions. And now, try to align yourself again. And see if that shoe fits. Ask yourself certain questions to where, because I believe the biggest problem is people don't ask certain questions or try to think a certain way because they're scared God may judge them. They're scared of how God may, they're scared God may send them to hell if they question Christianity. Or they're scared God may send them to hell if they even question God or ask, who are you, God? People are that scared. Do you really think that God will send you to hell if you even question him about who he is? And the reason why you're questioning him is because you want to put your faith in him. You want to rest assured. Do you really think he's going to send you to hell for that? But also many people live in that fear. So they just accept. They just accept these religions and ideologies and all these things that's been placed on them because they're scared to question. They're scared to ask. I'm not saying if any of these religions or anything is good or bad. I'm not saying that. But you've accepted something without questioning it. You've accepted something without testing it. You've accepted something without you actually going through your mind frame, your mind bank, and saying, is this something that I properly align with? All these religions and ideologies and all these things, a lot of times they were passed down from us, from our parents. And passed down and passed down and passed down. And we have to ask ourselves, where were they at when they accepted these things? Who put these things upon them? And did they even question these things? Same goes with politics. So many African Americans have voted historically Democrat. just because. Just voted Democrat over and over and over and over and over. It's been passed down over and over and over and over and over. And we see we haven't gotten anything from it. Nothing. Nothing from voting Democrat. When is the time when, and I'm trying to put this in a real world context so people can absorb it. When has been the time when you silenced yourself from saying, hey, let me silence myself. Let me not just go in action of what I've been doing on autopilot. Let me stop, go in silence and really ask myself, why am I voting Democrat? I know my grandmother and my grandfather, their parents and their parents and their parents and my parents and my cousin and my aunt, they've all voted Democrat. But we haven't received anything from it. Why do we do these things? Why? Now you start doing research. Now you start seeing that, oh, we were finessed to vote this way. We only vote this way because it's been passed down. We're not voting for who's going to benefit us more. We're only voting because this is the way it's been passed down. We're voting for the same people who's fed us lies over and over and over saying they're going to do something for us, but they haven't. And that's why we continuously vote in these ways over and over and over and over. You haven't silenced your mind. Once you silence your mind and you start seeing that revelation, boom, that revelation pops up. Now you're going to say, hey, I don't think I want to vote that way anymore. Why? Because we voted this way so many times, and this is how we got finessed, and this and this and this, and you know they've lied to us, and they haven't given us what didn't da 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 and da 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 and da da da. Then you start changing. Then you start saying, I might vote this way, or you might start saying, I'm not going to vote anyway. I'm just going to govern myself, and let God be my president, de facto president. You know. Again, the power of silence can be so great. We must shut off the noise of the world. Like I said, there's so much noise in this world on purpose. This noise that's in this world on purpose is to drown out that God consciousness. I'm telling you, it's to drown out your actual thought patterns, your actual consciousness, for you to think for yourself. That's why so much noise. Did you know that that is a torture technique? I can't tell you specifically what army, what country, but I know for a fact that is a torture technique. That they will play loud music, some kind of rock and roll or something destructive, and that lives in a certain frequency. They will play that loud over and 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 over for hours and hours and hours, until you give up. You see how dangerous noise can be? Just like that. Now imagine if you scale it down just a little bit to where it's not used directly for torture. You can still have the same effects by not silencing things. You need the silence. I'm telling you now, God is in silence. You want to think like God? You want to activate that God power, that same power that He's put in you? Silence. Remove yourself from the noise. Once you remove yourself from the noise, you see clearly. You really see how you should move. You really see how you need to think for you. Not for the world, not for the powers that be, not for your mama, not for your daddy, not for your boyfriend, not for your girlfriend, not for your wife, not for your husband, not for your kids, not for your cousin, not for your dog. For you. For you. And then once you align, you start aligning. Once you align with that, some things may fall, some things may not be there. That's okay. Again, that's okay. Because there's no point in keeping things in your life that does not align with you and the Most High when you're trying to move forward. It's going to hold you back. Again, the power is in the silence. I'm telling you. You want to talk to God, you want to be with God, you want to reach that God consciousness, you want to get out those feelings of lack and depressions and anxiety and all those things, be in silence. Anytime you have thoughts, anytime you have negative thought patterns, or you feeling some type of way, or go in silence. You never know what's tugging at you. You never know what's trying to pull you left or right. You never know. Silence is the key. It's your favorite cousin. I hope I helped somebody today. Y'all be safe. Take care. Love and blessings.